Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that can't stop watching otter videos while at work. It's Sif Pop. Welcome to Sif Pop Weekly, streaming live most Saturday mornings or available to download later in your podcast feed. Unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
Patrons get those perks.
Stevie.
I'm your host, Aaron Dicer, and he's worn out his old VHS copy of Tomb Buster. It's Andrew Ormsby, ladies and gentlemen.
That's true. Ahoy!
Each week we'll chat about movies, TV, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. And please welcome our guest this week. He's not a mercenary. He's a gift shopist. It's John Paula, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo!
Thank you for that, I think. Good to be back, fellas. Excited to talk about Moon Knight and, I don't know, indifferent about the other thing.
Spoilers.
If
I'm being honest.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about Moon Knight. That'll probably take up a lot of the episode. And we're also going to talk about a new movie that dropped on HBO Max this week. It is kind of crickets at the movie theaters right now in anticipation of a very strange week next week. A very, very strange week. So not a lot of stuff.
Why do you always talk in cryptic riddles? I don't understand. What could you be referring to?
If you can't figure it out, maybe go see the doctor. So we are going to talk about both of those things. Before we get to any of that, right off the bat, Andrew is itching to talk about last week's movies, The Northman.
So mad I missed it.
And I'm slipping my brain. What else did we talk about last week? The Northman and
was something. It's the Nick Cage Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Is it the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent or?
Yes, yeah, okay. I believe that is correct.
Yeah.
So Andrew, tell us a little bit about your thoughts on those movies.
Northman, loved it. Absolutely loved it. I know that a lot of people they don't really like Eggers movies. You know, they're not
me included.
Yeah, I was trying to be subtle.
No need.
Yeah, but no, he has a particular style that is not, I guess you could say, universally appealing. You know, he's very lucid with his movies. Mm-hmm. They're weird and fantastical, but I think out of something you can say about all of his movies is he has an artistic eye. I think they're beautiful movies. And this one is probably the most beautiful by like a long shot. This is a gorgeous movie. It really is. And performances all around. Sarsgaard. It's weird seeing Nicole Kidman play Sarsgaard's mother in this. Mm-hmm. While, like, at the same time, he's playing her wife or her husband in Big Little Lies, you know? It's crazy seeing that. But, yes, I'm going to admit it. This movie awoke something primal in me.
Of course it
did. It made
yes.
me think, like, oh, yeah, let's go conquer some stuff. Yeah.
That's what our culture needs right now. More really violence and conquering.
More violence and conquering, yeah. I'll be the first to say it. Yes, I got Scandinavian blood in me. Also, yes, I understand Vikings weren't the best people, you know. And whenever you have a movie about said people, you're going to see some stuff that is not going to be, happy Happy Town Frolics. I mean, you're going to see slavery, you're going to see raids, you're going to see berserkers going crazy, but at the same time, I don't want that to take away from the fact that I think this is an absolutely beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Is it basic? Yes. It's an absolute basic story. You know, I mean, I think one of the most classic stories arcs you could ever hear, you know. Father dies, boy wants revenge, you know. I mean, but you put that into a unique setting and then you try and build on that. I think that it's a great movie.
Well, we knew you would love it. In fact, we
Yeah,
gave
I know.
a shout out that you would love it.
I listened last week because I wanted to, I couldn't wait to hear what you guys thought. And you know, they were right. Yeah, Ian was right. I as he said, loved it.
Yeah, and we both liked it too. It's my favorite Eggers movie easily. John, have you seen it?
I have not.
Okay. What about The Unbearable Weight of a Massive Talent?
I did like it. It's not what I expected.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be a self-deprecating kind of, you know, like, oh, this is Nick Cage being truly meta and going all in on the fact that sometimes he can be, you know, an absolutely crazy person in his movies. And I was expecting that, but instead I got kind of just a regular Nick Cage movie, which is fine because
It's weird, right?
I wanted them to commit to the bit.
Yes,
if
exactly.
That makes sense.
That's exactly it. Yeah, they don't commit to the bit enough, in my opinion.
And I know self-deprecation can be, you know, difficult, you know, but at the same time, I think that it can also be freeing and allow you just to have the most fun. And if you're having so much fun, that's going to translate into your performance, and the people watching the movie are going to feed off of that.
Yeah.
It's
I still
good.
enjoyed it.
It's funny.
Still enjoyed it. John, have you seen that one?
Nope.
There you go. John, what are you doing? Like, you got kids or something? Like, what's taking up your time? Come on, man.
Yeah. And they both got ear infections last week, so we've been making a lot of trips to the doctor.
Oh.
A lot of
single ear infections or double ear infections?
Double in one, single in the other. So three out of four ears.
Man. 75% ear infection in the Paula kids.
Did it throw off their balance at all and stuff?
The little
make
one
them dizzy
as heck, regardless. But no, not quite. But we've been getting a lot of. Can you say that again? I didn't. What was that? Huh? What? And we're like,
huh?
Yeah.
Well, they'll get that from you down the road. So just consider it. You know, it'll balance out in the end, and eventually you'll be the one being going, huh? What did you say? So that'll happen.
Right.
All right, let's get into our reviews for this week. We will kick it off talking about Disney Plus's Moon Knight. When Stephen Grant, a mild-mannered gift shop employee, becomes plagued with blackouts and memories of another life, he discovers his dissociative identity disorder and shares a body with mercenary Mark Spector. As Steve and Mark's enemies converge upon them, they must navigate their complex identities while thrust into a deadly mystery among the powerful gods of Egypt. Marvel's...
Oh, is that what it's about? Thank you for saying it in a single sentence, because if you had given me 20 minutes to write a synopsis for this show, I would come up so short. It is bonkers. It is just episode to episode. It is a mystery. How is it unfolding? Why does any of this matter? Who is who? How does this work? Is this real? Is this fake? Is this an identity or another person? And I've enjoyed that aspect of it. But boy, Moon Knight is like the most confusing and unique and different show they've done so far.
Yeah, let me say this before we get any further. This is Marvel Studios. Their latest TV offering. Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke are playing Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke are all in this, playing different roles. And I will say this, what we have done with these MCU show reviews, consistently, it's just worked out this way. It's kind of our thing now. We review them before the finale, one episode before the finale. So we've watched 5 out of the 6, and we are not fearing spoilers. So when you listen to a TV review here on the show, we don't do a separate SIF spoil because there's so much ground to cover and so many things to talk about. So if you want to watch Moon Knight without hearing our opinions on the first 5 episodes, not the entire season,
just go do it.
Then you'll need to hop ahead into the next timestamp for the next review, because we will be spoiling stuff through episode 5, and there is plenty to spoil. This show goes in some very interesting and weird places, as John said. So John, continue with your thought. Would you then categorize this show through the first 5 episodes as liked it, loved it, disliked it, hated it, or it was just okay?
Great question. I would say high side of liked it. I'm enjoying it despite not really understanding what's going on.
High side of like it, you say?
Yeah, I would think so. Okay. Maybe just in the middle. It's what is this, like the 5th or the 6th show they've done? There's a couple I like more than this, but there's a couple I like less.
Okay.
Loki.
Andrew.
I'm gonna go low side of loved it. Loving it, I guess.
Nice.
Low side of loving it so far.
I am firmly in loved it. I am having so much fun with this show. After episode 5, it replaced WandaVision as my favorite MCU show so
episode
far.
5 was heavy.
Episode 5 was incredible. It kind of blew my mind. And not just for plot stuff that's going on and kind of things coming into a clearer picture.
Would you say hippopotamus?
Yes, for the hippopotamus. I for me, it's the intense actual thematic work it's doing about trauma, loss, and what it means to survive. Like
my wife turned to me and said, "This is what therapy feels like." By the way,
yeah.
This is the perception and the visualization of a therapy session. I'm like, yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah. So that kind of pushed me over the edge. I was already really enjoying it, even when I was kind of trying to find my ground as to where we were and what's real and what's not. Which, by the way, isn't necessarily answered at the end of episode 5.
I still don't know.
I have a firm belief that the show is made it at least a little bit clear where it's headed, but there's no guarantee. We can talk more specifics here in a bit. But yeah, I am loving this so much. I cannot believe Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke are acting on a comic book television show. Like, this is like mind-blowing stuff. They're both doing so great. The two personalities that we've seen from Oscar Isaac, the two characters, I should say, are distinct. They are clear. They are fully formed. He is just knocking it out of the park. The story is that once he had signed on and read the material, that he's the one that convinced that they're kind of neighbors. He convinced Ethan Hawke to come in and play that role. And man, I'm glad, because they are just so good in those roles.
Like physical neighbors, they live on the same street in LA.
Yeah, like
something
neighbors.
like that. Literally, that was the story I heard, was that that they live near each other. That's wonderful. So,
yeah. I'm glad they're getting more, I don't know, traditional prestige actors like Ethan into the MCU. I'm still holding out hope Meryl Streep joins at some point, and like as a villain somewhere.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah,
Daniel Day-Lewis is Dr. Doom. Make it happen, people.
He's too, for lack of a better word, too pretentious for this. But Meryl Streep would, and I think Feige could throw enough money at her that she'd be like, "I'll have fun with this."
Yeah.
But yeah, Ethan is great, and the stuff Oscar is doing, especially opposite himself, in scenes where he's just arguing or talking to mirrors and reflections of his alter ego or his repressed identity. I don't know how you describe it. All those scenes where he's arguing with himself are just, you completely forget, like, oh yeah, no, there's just the one guy here.
Well, and it comes even more to life when they're actually in the same room in episode 5.
Yeah,
where they're actually in real space together, and you just see how different they are physically and how they carry themselves.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
It's great.
The meekness of Steven.
Yeah.
And even though he's like more, gung ho, there's still a timidness and fear in Mark, especially in this episode. Not for himself, but for Steven. He's like, I don't want you to see this stuff,
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I think the best thing in the show, and it was way more prevalent in like the first couple of episodes, it's still here and there, but the cinematography in this show, especially that pilot episode, the way it moves with reflections and the way it does quick cuts, quick cut transitions and stuff like that to move from one location to the next. I think it's just stellar, absolutely stellar, easily the best shot show. It feels almost like if I almost said Robert Eggers, but that's not right. Let's go with Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead. He just did
Edgar Wright?
name? Edgar Wright.
Oh,
It feels kind of like Edgar Wright, because he does those quick transitions and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think the best thing in the show, even higher than the performances, which are incredible, is the cinematography.
Yeah. Yep. I think currently, and of course, episode 6 can, it'll be interesting, because honestly, WandaVision up until the last episode was amazing, and then the last episode was just kind of like back to Marvel being Marvel. Lots of punching and fighting and bringing things back to where they started.
It's interesting you say that. I feel the same way about WandaVision, but a show like Loki, I felt was kind of spinning its wheels and not making a lot of sense. But then when it all coalesced in episode 6, I was like, oh, this is actually really fantastic. And I like the slow build that they were building towards. So, yeah, I feel like my opinion can sort of make or break with the final episode here for Moon Knight next week. Because if it sort of finally puts a bow on things and maybe explains in a way for dumb people like me, like what really was real, what happened and why, I can really enjoy it. But if it does another mystery box and it does something else and it kicks the can to a second season we might not get, that's obviously going to frustrate me. But I have faith they're gonna sort of stick the landing. But yeah, so far it has been up and down for me. I loved the pilot, but then it was either episode 2 or episode 3 where the Steven personality basically was absent for the whole show when we were just following Mark. And I was kind of frustrated. I'm like, well, I spent all this time empathizing and learning about Steven's predicament and his life as a gift store employee. Yeah, gift shopist. And then the third episode, we just don't even see him or know what happened to him. And I was like, I trust we'll get back to him, but a long detour in what is only a 6-episode show felt like a bit of a hindrance. But besides that sort of pacing element to it that has sort of been back and forth for me, I love the action. I think the production design and all the visuals you mentioned, Andrew, are just gorgeous. All that stuff in the night on the desert, all just so beautiful looking.
That rooftop chase in episode 2 from the demon jackal or whatever those
that was
are
great
called.
Too.
The discount Demogorgon. That is that the slow motion they use from that front shot when he's running away and some of that stuff is blowing me away. I'm just like, this looks so cool, and it's not that typical Marvel quick cut action. You can't tell what's going on. I mean, there is some of that, to be honest. There is some of that in this show, but it's also taking time to have some really spacious action shots, which are really fun.
What do you guys think of this? The fact that this show, while being in the MCU, is so fantastical and feels so, even though it's about technically one person, I guess, well, 2. Okay, I'll say it's about 2 people, Steven and Mark, and it's so grand and vast, it feels like it's universal in scale, and yet we don't have anything that ties it into the MCU yet. Anything.
It's one of my favorite things, actually. It's like the first time in these TV shows, in any of them. Yeah, this is the first one where it's been like, you know what? You could literally watch this and not know the rest of the MCU exists.
Yeah.
If you're paying close attention, you may see a poster for like blip recovery or something like that. But for the most part, nobody's talking about it.
We don't even know if Steven and Mark were blipped or anybody in the show was blipped. We don't know.
We don't even know if this is the same universe as the other stuff. You know what I mean? Like, now that we've opened up that idea, and there is part of me that wonders if in the season finale it'll be revealed that this is actually a different timeline or universe. I think universe is what we're saying, right? Like, this is a multi-universe.
Like happening. The multiverse, like Stephen Strange is going to tie it in.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was my feeling in the first episode or 2. Was we usually get, with the introduction of a new show, some anchor that sort of lets us know when and where we are in relation to the rest of the MCU verse. Yeah. And we haven't got that yet, almost to a point that it's kind of obvious that we haven't gotten anything. So I'm wondering, is the 6th episode going to give us like a Final Destination 5 style twist where the denouement or some sort of post-credit sequence is going to be the anchor that recontextualizes everything that came before, and that it was all leading to maybe this entire show takes place before the blip, or it leads into something else.
Do we have a
don't.
timeline anchor?
We
don't even have a timeline, do we?
We have nothing, which is why maybe the twist or some sort of hook at the end of episode 6 is the thing that contextualizes a bigger sort of reveal or a bigger element. And that could be cool. It could be just pointless fan service, but I know in Feige we trust at this point.
Yeah. Hey, John, let me ask you this. What are you confused about? What are your questions right now? What questions do you need episode 6 to answer for you?
I think 5 finally got to some of it, but I was sort of confused. Like, why does he have? Is it 2 personalities or 2 literal entities possessing the same body? I think now it's sort of
2
clear.
personalities.
It's just personalities, not actual being.
Yeah.
Another thing I was confused about is like, what's the deal with Moon Knight? Like, how did he get the powers? What are the powers? Like, how does that entire thing work? And we got a little bit of that explanation in 5 again, which I think satiated enough that I'm like, okay, I think I get it.
Okay, so episode 5 did answer some of that stuff for you.
Yeah. And then in 5, I was like, wait, are they really on the ship of the dead, or is he in a psychiatric ward? And for a while, I was like, I wasn't sure which was the dream and which wasn't.
And I love that.
And
that's great. It's great.
And I'm still not entirely sure, but I'm leaning towards the ship of the dead is what we're really watching.
Correct.
And the MCU was just like, the afterlife exists too. Why not?
Yeah. Well, they have to go there. They have to go there because they're developing this whole side of the MCU that deals with, whether it be the Eternals or Blade or whatever. Like, it's going to deal with the idea of the afterlife and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
And it's not like the MCU itself or Marvel even is like, this isn't new for them. I mean, pantheons of gods, Thor was what, the 3rd or 4th movie, that we had or 5th. I guess it was 5th because I keep forgetting about Hulk. But, I was like, Thor, and then Love and Thunder is going to bring in the Greek gods, So, I mean, having all these different pantheons, and the Egyptian gods are really cool. Khonshu is... It's fascinating seeing how he's kind of like Thor in a way. Khonshu is he can have a temper tantrum kind of like Thor can, and you just realize that these gods are just spoiled.
Yeah, they're little children.
Yeah, they're spoiled little children with universal powers and how terrifying that can be sometimes.
I do like the implication. I don't know if they'll touch upon it or make note of it again, but that if this takes place post Thanos, that there is a point in the Marvel universe where the Watcher, the Eternals, and all these Egyptian gods just watched that happen. Like, all right, that's fine. They're all like we're now inundated with all these like immortal overseers that and also what's his in-universe character name? Not Kang, but it's like the guy at the end or the man at the end, whatever he's called.
No,
he kind of
the Watcher. I know who you're talking about. Yeah, King the Conqueror.
He who remains, or something like that.
The
man who remains.
That's King the Conqueror, isn't it?
It is King, but he has like a title. Like
he hasn't been. They haven't used the word Kang yet.
Oh, I see.
In universe, and I don't know. They probably will, but they haven't officially.
Got it.
But it's interesting yet that we've now established there's like 4 or 5 separate sets of immortal overseers that just watch humanity specifically to just let us destroy ourselves constantly, I guess is the implication there. Just it doesn't matter if half the universe is blip. They're like, all right, that's fine. We're not going to interview. Not yet.
And then one of the biggest of them all is going to be revealed in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Yeah. Which I'm stoked for.
It'd be nice if that were coming out soon. Oh wait, it is. That movie it has so much weight on its shoulders. I'm going to be very curious where we end up after that movie. I'm still baffled that was supposed to come before Spider-Man. So there's just so much of my brain that's trying to figure out what's going to happen in that movie and what it means going forward. It's obviously meant to open up a lot of storytelling doors, right? Probably for X-Men and Fantastic Four and those kind of things. But it also has to close some of those doors, I think, too. It can't leave everything open because then it just gets too muddy and messy, right? Like it also has to kind of focus the MCU to a point too, right? Like that just seems like a lot for one movie to try to accomplish once it's opened all those doors.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving back to Moon Knight, I want to talk about Ethan Hawke.
We can talk about Ethan Hunt
We
as
can
well.
talk about, Ethan Hunt. Yeah, just seeing him just run. Okay, you know that scene, the scene in episode 2 where Moon Knight is being chased by the Jackal.
Mhm.
We should also have a cut of like Ethan Hunt running past him, like, you know, because
Nice.
everybody says Tom Cruise is the fastest runner, you know, just see him booking it past. But no, Ethan Hawke's character is fascinating. I will always say the one for a villain to be totally like for me to totally vibe with like a villain, like, oh, I'm gonna love this villain in this movie, like as a villain, not like you know, agree with them, you know, but like I think they make the most compelling villains is the ones who think they're doing good. That's why I love Thanos. Thanos thought he was helping. It was just this misguided sense of like a destiny, you know. It's same thing here with Ethan Hawke's character. I forget his name now. I'm sorry.
Harrow.
But yeah, Harrow. Yeah, his dispensement of judgment, and like, yes, we're making the world better. You know, like I'll always think that villains who think they're helping are some of the most fascinating villains out there.
Yeah,
and of course,
he thinks
he's and he's killing it.
He's a Minority Report. Minority Report. Yeah, that's what he is.
I appreciate the good wordplay, even when it's not great.
even when it's fumbled. Yes. I totally agree. Obviously, he makes no sense, and very immediately is like, yeah. Also, we think, you know, children are like a diseased arm. Yeah. It's like, and Steve is like, in general, I find the killing of children to be problematic.
Yeah,
yeah.
Steve is so good.
He's fun, man. He's so fun, and he's gone. And like, you know, I wonder.
Do you think he'll come back?
No, I don't, because I think the show is doing real like therapy work on the character of Mark. Like, I think that, you know, part of the whole balancing of the scales in episode 5 was understanding that he could be open to the entirety of his truth without having to separate himself, you know, into this other person. And I think I could be completely wrong. And maybe there'll be another kind of goodbye moment or something. But if the show is doing the legit work I think it's trying to do on the idea of dissociative disorders, I don't think you can bring Steven back and make it make sense in a health, you know, kind of a way, in a thematic kind of a way. I really think that he has to understand that Steven was. I mean, maybe he can imitate Steven, but even that feels a little weird. Yeah. So
that wouldn't be right.
But I could be completely wrong.
Predicting Steven is basically out of the show for the last episode.
I believe that Mark has made peace with the Steven part of him being a part of his whole and not having to separate that.
Which is sad, because I like Steve so much more than I like Mark.
Well, here's what we have in the future is there's a third separation that we have not met yet. That has been hinted at in there was, if nothing else, that tomb that was shaking when they were in the afterlife that we know. I think we know another Mark is in there. We know that person has come out, and neither of them knew who it was. So there will continue to be the disassociative stuff, but I don't think it can be with Steven anymore.
Because there was that, I think it was the episode in like the first episode where we're actually in Egypt, you know, like we're seeing like them walk around Egypt. Like there are times when like Steven goes, like he does the blackout, and then he wakes up and people are, you know, dead and stuff. And Mark says, that wasn't me. So there is a third personality we have not met yet. Yeah,
at least, and maybe
at least one more. Yeah.
Maybe that's kind of the thing from here on out. But I will miss Steven. He was a lot of fun and really interesting, and said bruv a lot, which I always think is fun. Yeah. So there's that.
He's a very adorable character for sure.
He really is. Any other thoughts on Moon Knight before we move on to our second review?
I think I mentioned it quickly, the production design, especially the costumes. I don't know anything about the source comic, but both versions of the Moon Knight suit, both like the
really
white
cool
tailored three-piece and like the mummified like wraps, and the way it comes up around his face. I mean, that has nothing to do with cinema. That's all just like theme park ride, fanboy service. But I appreciate it, and it looked super cool. And when you can make something look super cool, that goes a long way for properties like this, certainly.
Yeah.
Especially when you can pack in like this really deep ethos about, personalities and trauma and childhood, suppression that you're trying to get over. I think there's a worthy story here. It took a few episodes to get to, but really excited to see how they finish it up.
Yeah, Moon Knight is Marvel's Batman, which is ironic, because he's all cloaked in white as opposed to Batman, who's cloaked in darkness. While at the same time, one could argue Mark's origin story is darker in some ways than
I think
Bruce
so.
Wayne's.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
Yeah.
Also, Moon Knight does have supernatural powers, which Batman doesn't. But yeah, no, I see what you're talking about as far as origin and kind of where the pathos comes from. I guess the final thing we can talk about is maybe how we rank stuff. This is the 6th Marvel TV show on Disney Plus. I mentioned it will probably be my first. Right now, if things continue as I think they will, I'll have Moon Knight 1, WandaVision 2, Loki 3, Hawkeye 4, What If 5, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier 6. What about you guys?
So the Falcon Soldier at 6. That's you've done my boys.
Doesn't mean I hate it. It's just
I like
I
think
they've all been good.
I think they've all been good. I really do. Yeah.
I think I would slot Hawkeye first. I think because it was the most grounded and it didn't have any superpowers, I actually enjoyed that the most. Then WandaVision, then probably Moon Knight, then the Winter Falcon, and then Loki, and then I guess What If last. Right? Am I missing one, or is there another one?
No, that's right.
I think that's all of them.
Yeah, I didn't love Falcon and the Winter Soldier over What If. What If is just an interesting animal. It's kind of its own interesting thing.
I enjoyed it, but it was the anthology aspect that ironically, I'm always a big fan of episodic programming that doesn't require these like multi-hour binge sessions. Right. But there was something so disconnected in a series that heretofore has been so deeply connected that I was like, I don't know, should I care about the zombies if they're never going to factor back into anything? Right. And they did eventually, but not in a way that I felt was super satisfying.
Yeah. Andrew?
I would probably put Moon Knight right now at my number 1. I think I really would. Then Loki, because I think even as bonkers as Moon Knight is, I think Loki was even crazier, Then I would go with WandaVision, then Hawkeye, just because that camaraderie between Yelena and Kate was just so good, Yeah, that's a friendship I just want to watch forever, And I need more Yelena. She is quickly becoming one of my favorite MCU characters.
Yeah, she'll be in the movies. She'll be in more shows. Yeah, she's a staple.
Yeah, after that, probably What If, and then Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Okay, so we're all fairly similar.
Yeah,
in that.
Which I love them all. Actually, you know what? I lied. Switch Falcon and Winter Soldier with What If. I would put What If at the bottom.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I might make that switch too. All right, there you go. There's some thoughts on Moon Knight. Maybe we'll do some brief thoughts after we've seen the finale at some point. Maybe for our Sif Pop members, we might do that. All right, let's move on to the second review. Let's talk about The Survivor. Harry Haft is a boxer who fought fellow prisoners in the concentration camps to survive. Haunted by the memories and his guilt, he attempts to use high-profile fights against boxing legends like Rocky Marciano as a way to find his first love again. Harry Haft is a real person. This is based on a real story, and Ben Foster steps in to take the lead role here with several others around him. I think this is HBOMax release only. I don't know that it's probably in a couple theaters just in case there's awards consideration.
I think it was actually released at a festival. I want to say TIFF or something else last
Could be.
fall.
Yes, that is probably correct. So what did you guys think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or was just okay? Andrew, you get to go first this time.
It's interesting because this is one of those movies where the second I stopped watching, I'm like, oh, I loved it. But then the more I thought about it, like, yeah, okay, but yeah, that really didn't make sense. Or, oh, I didn't like the way that they did that. So I'm going to go with high to middling side. I liked it.
Okay, middle to high side of liked it. John, what about you?
I probably come probably around the same spot. I just kind of middle of liked it.
I'm gonna be the one. I'm gonna be the one that says it's just okay. I think probably even just right in the middle of okay, not even high side of okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Did I not say that? I meant just okay. Right in the middle. That's what I meant to say.
I convinced you that quickly,
okay.
huh? I didn't even have to say anything. No, it is. It is certainly a movie you watch and go, oh, I feel like I'm supposed to love this because it's about something so tragic and powerful and just a part of our history where no matter what movie goes back and explores it, you're just like, okay, I'm learning more. I'm finding more ways into the trauma of our history and learning about who we are as human beings and what we can do to be different or be better. All that stuff is here. And so I think there is that first inkling of, okay, this is a movie that we need to like. But there's enough on the negative side of this one that I'm just going to say this is just okay. Andrew, you seem to like it more than us. Talk a little bit about why.
Well, okay, if I'm talking pros, I'll get to performances in a second, but the flashbacks to Auschwitz are some of the most haunting and terrifying things like since Schindler's List.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, like it's some of the most like what is humanity like come to, like this just truly barbaricness.
I'm glad you were affected by it because I felt like it was just like discount Schindler's List. It was like, let's shoot it in black and white. Let's show the same kind of shots again through the barbed wire, like naked bodies being stacked into mass graves. I don't know. I'm just a callous heel at this point because I was like, I don't really feel anything.
No,
I think it did feel like they were just trying to evoke emotion by cribbing from the worst thing ever, without actually diving into the emotional sort of essence of what that was and why it mattered. Like there's a scene late in the film where Ben Foster is reminiscing about having to fight one of his friends. And I was thinking like, it would have been cool if we knew who this friend was, but he said to us like, this is the friend. We didn't, I don't know that I cared about their relationship though. Like they had,
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Like they didn't develop enough for me.
It hadn't been built up enough.
Like
right.
That scene works better if the camera sort of is on his face and it spins around and we see the person on the other side of the boxing rink and we're all like, oh no. But it was like, oh wait, that's right. I remember that guy from an hour ago. It just didn't have the same effect because I didn't care about anyone else in those scenes except him. So obviously I'm rooting for him to succeed. And we know he's going to get out because it's told in flashback. But I feel like all the black and white Holocaust stuff was, I don't know, hampered to me for those reasons. But
I'm gonna side with Andrew here and say that it was a pro for me. I think the movie definitely treated it with respect and honor.
I agree there, yeah.
And but didn't shy away from the reality of it. And but I am also the kind of person that's like, we need to look trauma in the face. We need to deal with that. I continue not to be desensitized to it in a way that I find myself connecting to it and putting myself in that situation. And I thought the movie did a fine job with that. So yeah. Andrew, continue on with some of your pros.
Okay, performances. I mean, one of these days, Ben Foster is going to win an Oscar.
He's so good. He's so good.
It's insane.
He has the ability to transform and be totally unrecognizable, and he does it like 3 different times in this movie.
He does like a Castaway style weight loss.
Yeah,
for the flashbacks. He is gaunt in the camps as well. He should. I mean, nobody in Auschwitz, I think, probably weighed more than $150. Like you were starved for months at a time. And then in the old stuff,
generous,
but then in all of the Brooklyn stuff in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, it's pretty pudgy. He put on a little weight, and I appreciate it. The character transformation is telling. And I don't speak Polish too well, but I felt like his accent felt really authentic, and
Everything felt authentic to
he was
me.
great.
I was blown away by the performance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man, he's so good. I'm gonna throw out a con actually really quick.
Sure.
We're talking about flashbacks and stuff like that. I don't like how one story is told linearly and the other one isn't.
That was super frustrating.
Really was frustrating.
It was pointless too.
It was pointless. Yeah.
Yep.
Like
I agree.
I think if you want the Auschwitz stuff to really like be impactful, show it linearly. Don't skip ahead and show like what's going on and stuff with like Billy Magnuson and stuff. Who, by the way, Billy Magnuson was just born to play like an eerie person. He has these intense eyes that like that just penetrate your soul. I thought he was really good in this movie too.
Yeah.
But yeah, you need to show that stuff linearly, because then like you said earlier, the fight with the friend and stuff, that becomes more impactful,
Well, yeah, the fact that they showed that out of sequence was like, wait a minute. Last scene we saw him, he had escaped. Now we're back to him in the fighting. Like, I understand the importance and certainly effectiveness of having two parallel threads, one flashback, one present day. But the movie also opens in 1963, so everything is a flashback from that point that we catch up to in like the third act. So there's like this bookend framing in the 60s, and then the 1950s stuff, and then within that, cross-cutting out of order from the 1940s. It was too many disparate timelines that honestly you could have told the entire thing chronologically and it would have been better.
Yeah.
I will go so far as to say, and this was my thought upon finishing the movie, I think the structure of this movie in many ways, especially the way you're talking about, is its downfall. I think it destroys the movie. I think this is obviously a powerful life. It's a life that's would be interesting to know about and to see, and but the structural choices that were made, I think were made because they wanted this to primarily be a love story. And
it's not a boxing movie.
And it's, really. But it thought it was a boxing movie for a while.
For the first half, it thought it was a boxing movie. But then after that, you realize that none of that mattered.
Well, the movie tricks you into thinking it's a boxing movie, right? Yeah. This is part of the structure I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And you get to the big, Rocky Marciano fight, like the big fight, the big moment, and there's 40 minutes left. And you're going, oh, wait, I guess it's not a boxing movie. Oh, that's right. Maybe it was about this. Like, it's just the structure is mind-bogglingly confusing here.
I think if you structure this like Castaway, where we spend a lot of time with him in the camps in the first hour, or maybe even a lot of time with his first girlfriend for 20 minutes, then the camps for an hour, and then just the back 30 minutes is the boxing part of the movie where he's trying to gain notoriety so he can reconnect. But doing the two different threads simultaneously, it robs both of their effectiveness, because it's a foregone conclusion where they're going to go.
Also, and there are certainly plenty of people who disagree, I think you kind of have to change the reality of the situation to make the romance part of it match up more with the boxing part of it. I think those two have to feel like they are culminating at the same time. And you may have to change some of the truth to what really happened in the real world to get the essence of what you're trying to say.
We get the Rocky moment where he wins or he loses the match and he wins the girl at the same time.
Right. And by the way, I guess we're kind of spoiling some things here, but this isn't about him winning.
Story.
That's true. I mean, it isn't about him winning the girl necessarily, but that part of it does seem to be what the movie wants the main focus to be. That's where it culminates for the movie.
Right.
So if you're going to do that, I just think you have to understand what you're doing to your audience when you present it as, him doing these boxing, like it's just, it's so muddled.
It's a very compelling true story. And I feel like the way they told it, just at every turn,
unfortunate.
Yeah, it kind of took its own legs out every step of the way. But individually, the individual scenes, moments, and vignettes were so effective. There's a moment at the end, I don't want to spoil more than we already have, where Ben Foster sits down and has a conversation with somebody. And that's really powerful stuff. And I wanted to live in that moment a little longer. I felt that was beautifully acted. everything he had opposite Billy as the Nazi officer, where they're sort of coming to terms with their relationship, where he is powerless to do anything, even when he isn't powerless to do something, because he knows he's sort of beholden to this Nazi and his, I don't know, leash, for lack of a better word. Like, he knows if I go along with his orders, I at least have a chance of survival, whereas otherwise I definitely won't. And that sort of master-slave relationship was really compelling, and I love their individual scenes. I would have liked if it was just a 20-minute section in sequence and then we moved from it, but kind of sporadically told out of order was another way to do it. But yeah, individually, he was great. And all the arguments he had with, I forget her name, but Vicky Krieps, I think. She looks like Joan Allen. Yeah. All the scenes they had together were perfect as well. I thought they played off each other so well. And there's that sort of that trepidation between them as they sort of begin a relationship they're neither one is sure about. All great moments, but yeah, the culmination was just not kind of stacked correctly.
Yeah. And I think part of it also is the fact that you're dealing with a movie that's trying to tell you how several different people impacted his journey, right? You've got the Billy Magnuson character, you've got the Vicky Krieps character, you've got the reporter character, Peter Sarsgaard, you've got the brother, and you've got the trainer, John Leguizamo, and Danny DeVito kind of in that role as well. So you've got all these different people who are circling around, and instead of us getting a chance to really spend time with them as they're impacting his life chronologically, we're jumping to each of them, and so we're having to shift. Oh, now I'm what? So what was his relationship to this person, and where are we in this story? And oh, now we're back with Vicky Krieps, and oh yeah, they're falling in love, and it's just like it's for your viewer. You have to put yourself in your viewer's mind. Yes, you understand the story you're telling. You've been through it a million times. You know how it all makes sense and how it all goes together. But we're trying to piece it together as we go, and it's just you're jumping all over the place.
If I was a movie director, I would never do nonlinear storytelling, just because there's so many instances where it just doesn't work, you know?
Well, it's one of the beautiful things about The Northman, right? That came out last week. It's just a linear story, you know? It's not jumping around. Yeah.
I wanted to say quickly, Aaron, you mentioned the possibly sort of cheating the timeline and or the true events a bit for dramatic purposes. And I think combining Leguizamo and Danny DeVito into a single character would have benefited. They're both such iconic character actors in cinema that having both of them in effectively the same role as a sort of mentor coach felt redundant. And I don't know how either one of them served the story uniquely from the other. And I kind of like, just give us Danny DeVito and have him, you know, steal all of Leguizamo's lines. And I think you have a more focused film where he can actually have a relationship with one, because I didn't feel like he had a relationship with them. I don't feel like he learned anything the way that Rocky learned, from Mickey. I did not get that at all.
It feels like they want the theme of this to be how the simplest version of love can sustain survival, right? Like that seems to be what they want the main theme to be. The idea that the power of human relationship can, but
they didn't establish that relationship at the beginning of the movie. They started with them getting ripped apart from each other. And
everything they're trying to do with the boxing stuff has nothing to do with that. So
it's just like a distraction from
right. So because then it's not about survival, then it's about a quest to find. Those are two different things, right? So
I think you open this movie with an up-style montage of them falling in love as teenagers, and you see the meet cute, you see them fall in love, you see their first kiss, then you see them ripped away with the Nazis, and then it's like, okay, I want to go back to this happy spot. So there is something to aim towards, but they wanted to keep it sort of a mystery for, I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know why either. I think that could have been like the biggest catalyst for us as a viewer to be like engaged. If we had a set reason and understanding of who these two were before being thrown into the concentration camps, and why Ben Foster is fighting literally to find her, like if we understood that love,
we were only basically told like, oh yeah, no, I love her. Okay, I'll take your word on that.
Yeah. All right, I don't have anything else. I think we kind of covered this one. Do you guys have any final thoughts on The Survivor?
There's a truly like breathtaking, one of the greatest stories ever told, buried in this mess of a movie, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
And I think that the heart of the dramatic pathos of this film is a Jewish Holocaust survivor who had to literally box his own friends to death to get out. That is just such a tragic, heartbreaking, like unfathomable story. And the movie just sort of like glosses over it as like a means to an end. And I wish they spent so much more time on that part of the story, because those were the most powerful moments where he's forced to literally choke his friend out, because he knows it's you or me, and I hate this and I don't want this, but I do not have a choice. And that sort of lack of choice, that was, I think, the heart of this film. And they touch on it briefly, but it left me just disappointed that like there was a much better story here that was left like unexplored.
There you go. That is The Survivor. It is on HBOMax. Before we get into the best ever challenge, a reminder that Sif Pop is supported by Sif Pop members at Patreon. If you're curious about that, interested in that, want to know kind of what are some of the fun thank yous that we send out to our members, that kind of stuff, go to patreon.com/siftpop. I think one of the primary fun things we do is we record extra content for our Sif Pop members. And we recorded our summer movie draft. The three of us drafted the movies we think are going to make the most money this summer. If that's something you're curious about hearing, if that's something you're interested in, go check out all the details at patreon.com/sifpop. At certain levels, you get your own podcast feed without the ads and with the bonus episodes all there in one place just for you, the Sif Pop member. That is at patreon.com/siftpop. All right, let's move into the best ever challenge. A tenuous thread to our movies. Peter Sarsgaard makes an appeance in
It's
the
very tenuous.
Survivor.
Is there a reason we didn't just do Ben Foster movies? Has that already been ranked on the show?
I looked at Ben Foster movies. There aren't a lot of them.
Come on. We could have talked about Hell or High Water, The Contractor, Get Over. This guy's been in a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, and we'd all have the exact same. We'd all have the exact same list because there's only like 5 movies to choose from.
Maybe.
Sarsgaard was even a little close to that, but I thought there were might be enough variety in our list to go with best ever Peter Sarsgaard.
I think Peter Sarsgaard is one of those actors who's great in everything he does, even the really bad movies. Like if it's a really bad movie, I can go, yeah, but Peter Sarsgaard was good.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll do best ever. Plus, I met him recently, so he was fresh in my brain.
Oh, nice.
Was he nice? Please say he was nice.
He was extremely nice. I met him and Maggie Gyllenhaal at the Lost Daughter press conference and talked to him for a while. So yeah, cool dude. All right, we'll go number 5 to number 1. I will kick us off. My number 5 best ever movie that has Peter Sarsgaard in it is Night and Day. I think this is a fairly underrated comedy. I think it's really good. I wish Tom Cruise would do more stuff like this. I think he's really good in this role, and he's
kind of been wrapped up in these giant, big budget event tent poles, and it's okay, Tom, to do like a movie that only takes you 3 months instead of a year and a half. Like
Night
and Day is a criminally overlooked action comedy, and they don't really make those anymore.
Yeah. I think it all relies on chemistry, and the chemistry between him and Cameron Diaz is just great. The way they play off of each other is brilliant.
Yep. So Night and Day is my number 5. John, what do you got?
Dead Man Walking. This is a film. Full disclosure for my list. There's a few of these movies I haven't seen in a long time, and I don't remember very well.
Yeah.
Peter Sarsgaard is not the lead in this. I can't remember who he plays. But I do remember enjoying the film. Sean Penn is brilliant in this. I want to say Susan Sarandon's husband, Tim Robbins, directed.
I totally forgot to trump you on this, by the way. I have this on my list as well.
Right.
So
then let's talk about it. Maybe you can refresh my memory on it.
We'll continue this conversation in a bit. Andrew, what do you got at number 5?
This is where I have The Man in the Iron Mask.
It's a good movie.
Haven't seen this one yet. Please tell us.
I mean, it's good. It's a good movie. I love Leonardo DiCaprio, and anything he does, I'm a sucker. Jeremy Irons is really why I'm just like, oh, I love this guy. Actually, a lot of the people in this movie are just like, they're so charismatic and fun. It's an interesting retelling of the Three Musketeers with, the Man in the Iron Mask. And in this movie, Leonardo DiCaprio is a great hero and also a great villain, playing two different characters. It's a good, it's a you will not be disappointed having watched it, but I don't think you'll walk away going, oh, that movie was amazing. Some people might.
This is in my honorable mentions. Worth a watch, John, if you get a chance. I'm not saying it's going to blow your mind, but it's decent enough that you'll have a good time.
You know me, my bar for recommendations is movie exists. It's on the list.
Get it on the Letterboxd list.
I think what Aaron and I are saying is we know you have like 4,000 movies on your list.
Correct.
Yeah,
no need to bump this to the top.
Yes. Correct.
It shuffles based on my headlines, and like if I read something about someone, like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to watch the movie that touched upon this subject, I'll throw that on. So it just kind of happens. Sometimes it'll just get moved up.
Yeah.
All right, on to my number 4. This is where I have Black Mass. This is the Johnny Depp movie where he plays Whitey Bulger. And you've got Joel Edgerton in there, Dakota Johnson, Benedict Cumberbatch, Jesse Plemons, and Peter Sarsgaard. I liked this more than most. I think I remember most people were just like, this is kind of lame. I think it may be one of Johnny Depp's best performances. I think he's pretty incredible in it. And I thought the movie was well told. I enjoyed Black Mass. It's only been 2015, so that's just a few years ago.
I remember when the trailer for this movie came out, and it was like one of the most haunting and shocking trailers like I'd ever seen. The trailer for this movie is basically that dinner scene where he's like talking about the family recipe for the steak. He's like, so you gave up your family secret just like that,
Yeah.
Which in the movie is like one of the most like bone-chilling, eerie scenes. I think that this movie relies too much on how good Johnny Depp is. I think that the actual storytelling itself is a bit of a mess. Yeah. But the prosthetics are like otherworldly good. And Johnny Depp's transformation into Whitey Bulger is unrecognizable.
Yeah. There you go. Black Mass in at my number 4. John, what do you got at number 4?
Another movie I don't remember super well, but I did enjoy The Magnificent Seven reboot.
I'm going to trump you again. My job is just to trump you every single time around, John.
Oh, Aaron!
Andrew, what do you have at number 4?
Pawn Sacrifice.
Oh, interesting. I don't know that I've seen this.
I haven't even heard of it.
This is Tobey Maguire and
chess movie.
Where Tobey Maguire is actually playing Bobby Fischer.
Oh yeah, I've seen this. Yeah.
It's an interesting movie, and I like how this was Queen's Gambit before there was Queen's Gambit. How I don't know why this is, but apparently chess players, like high level chess players, kind of have a lot of mental baggage because they're having to think 3, 4, 5, 15 steps ahead of everything. That it in a way affects their personal life and kind of makes them paranoid because they're always have that mentality of trying to think ahead. And yes, Bobby Fischer himself did have a lot of demons besides that playing chess. But I think that he's good in this movie. I think Liev Schreiber is good in this movie. If you liked Queen's Gambit, I think that you would have a pretty good time watching Pawn Sacrifice.
I remember enjoying it just fine. It just completely evaporated from my brain the second I saw it.
The reason why I was so stoked on it is because it's actually directed by Edward Zwick, who's one of my favorite directors. Did Last Samurai, did Blood Diamond. I mean, he's one of my favorites.
Blood Diamond is very under.
I mean, he didn't direct Blood Diamond. Sorry, or did
doesn't matter. It's still a great film.
I love Edward Zwick. Yeah,
does not change my opinion. All right, on to our number 3s. This is where we get to talk about The Magnificent Seven. I have it at number 3. John has it at number 4. I think this is underrated. I think this movie is really fun.
I think it's as good as the original.
I will fight you.
I don't know if that's a blasphemous thing to say.
I think it is. I think it's blasphemous, yes.
I enjoyed both. I prefer Yul Brynner to whomever plays him in the new one. But I watched both of them like the same week back when this came out in 2016. I really liked both. I thought the new one had a good style and like a slick, gritty sheen to it. But the original certainly had that like bravado that you can't replicate in modern cinema.
Yeah.
I think this movie is a ton of fun.
Yeah.
I just remember having a really good time watching it.
I love the diversity of characters in this one. I think that would be the biggest pro over the original one. I think, the original. Well, I say original, which I don't mean Seven Samurai. I mean Magnificent Seven.
Right.
But I think in the original one, I think that one of the things people could argue is that every other member was kind of like almost cookie cutter of everyone else. They just had a little bit of a different skill. Whereas I think the diversity and the people in the Magnificent Seven is good in this one. Ethan Hawke playing just a super amazing character with a lot of darkness in him, Yeah. I think that bear was wearing people clothes, Yeah. I love a lot of the characters in this movie. I don't.
Was this on your top 5, Andrew? I didn't even.
No, it was number 6. It was like my first honorable mention. But I can't, in good Western faith, put it above the original one. So, but
that's fair. I came into Westerns late in life. I didn't watch basically my third Western until I was 30. So I don't have sort of that childhood nostalgia or reverence for some of the big classics. And I certainly appreciate a lot of that. I love a good John Ford Western, but I prefer Seven Samurai over both of these, but
in my house, you were required to watch a Western before you did your homework. So it was one of those households. So
it's good stuff.
Nice. John, what do you have at number 3?
Now, this is a movie I remember because I watched it 2 nights ago. The Batman.
Trump.
Okay.
Yeah, I figured it's in my honorable mentions. All right, Andrew. We have kept our streak of trumping every single thing John has thrown at us. But what do you have at number 3?
Jarhead.
Oh, interesting.
Haven't seen this one either. I'm not able to trump your picks because I haven't seen any of them.
Have you seen Full Metal Jacket?
Yes.
You've seen Jarhead.
Yes.
Okay.
Honestly, and that's not a dig at the movie, but literally that's what the movie is supposed to be. It's literally supposed to be Full Metal Jacket if it took place in Desert Storm.
Yeah, right.
That's the movie. There's the first half is boot camp. The second half is in Desert Storm. And like every single movie like moment that you would expect from Full Metal Jacket, it's Jarhead. But I like Jake Gyllenhaal in this. I think he's really good. And Peter Sarsgaard plays like his partner. Like they're snipers, and they're like the one's the spotter and one's the actual shooter and stuff. It's really good. And Jamie Foxx is charismatic as always. It's good. It's good if you like Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, I remember thinking it was okay. But I mean, war movies aren't necessarily my thing. So. But yeah, it's Jake Gyllenhaal is something else, man. He's quite an actor.
Yeah, I think the guy has a future in acting. I wouldn't.
I think you're right.
Aha.
I think you're right.
Is Jarhead how Maggie and Peter got together?
Oh, interesting thought.
Because they got married. They got married in 2006, which is like a year and a half after this movie would have been filmed.
Fascinating.
And I think maybe Jake was like, Bring my sister to work day, and maybe that's all. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
Could be.
I'm sure it's on record somewhere.
Movie sets are famous for bring your sister to work day. So that's probably very likely.
Yeah.
All right, Andrew, what is your number? Oh, we just did your number 3?
Yeah, that was Jarhead.
Okay, so mine, oh right, because we trumped John. Of course we did.
Yeah.
All right, on to number 2. This is where we get to talk about Dead Man Walking, John. I have it at my number 2. Yeah, as you mentioned, it has been a while since this movie. It is any movie you watch from this era is going to have things cinematically that don't necessarily age as well. but the story is really compelling. The performances are really good. It's very meaningful. There's some real, end of life compassion stuff in this that I really like. So yeah, Dead Man Walking.
Has Tim Robbins directed any other movies?
Yes, right. I'll look it up. But why do you ask?
I think he has, but not many. I don't know if this is his directorial debut, but I know Tim is certainly well known as an actor, but not as a director. And he wanted to get his wife in front of the lens, and he got a 2-time Academy Award winner, or I guess just 0 time at the time. Sean Penn in front as well. And yeah, they play off each other excellently. I recall there being a solid Springsteen song in the credits that worked pretty well.
He did Cradle Will Rock, and that was it.
Yeah, it was.
Bob Roberts.
Sarandon's performance won her the Academy Award for Best Actress. That's something right there. When your wife wins the Oscar for your direction, that's a good collaboration. Yeah. I'm a sucker for good prison films and prison adjacent films, and I think getting into the mindset and the personality of someone that's been sentenced to death, that's a very fascinating. Because we're regular people, we don't know anyone on death row, I hope. So I like movies that kind of show us into the mind of a character that's just so far removed from something we would be.
So the answer is his directorial debut was Bob Roberts. Yeah. Then he directed Dead Man Walking, and then he directed
Cradle Will Rock.
Cradle Will Rock. So those are the 3 movies he directed. And then he's directed some TV since then.
Fair enough.
But yeah, there you go. All right, on to your number 2, John. Can we make it 4 for 4?
Oh, almost, probably, certainly not. This pick is only here because of recency bias. Again, I watched it recently, starring Jake Gyllenhaal with pretty much only him. This is The Guilty. This is that 911 call center movie where Jake is just answering phone calls the whole film, trying to stop a crime or a kidnapping. And I think Peter Sarsgaard is one of the callers. And he has it's like a voice-only role. He's probably only in it for like 3 or 4 minutes. This kind of barely qualifies. But I really enjoyed it. And it was, again, a movie I remember better than some of the other picks on this list. So, The Guilty. I had a good time with that. I think it was much better than the Halle Berry version, The Call, from a few years prior. I think this was a great example of like how to do COVID production. If you're locked down and you have to take social distance, this is a great example, because this was filmed during lockdown. This was filmed in 2020. And I think this is a great example of doing what you can with what you have. And Jake is just such a phenomenal performer. It's criminal he hasn't got nominated yet. For anything. He's never even been nominated.
He should have been nominated for Nightcrawler,
he should have won for Nightcrawler.
This movie, The Guilty, is actually a remake of a Danish film. Everybody go and watch the Danish version. It's 1 trillion times better.
I have heard you say that, and it's on my list. I've been meaning to go check that out.
Alrighty. So that is
Hey, John got to talk.
You got to talk, John. Well done.
Don't act like that's rare.
Andrew, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is written, directed, starring Zach Braff. Let's go with Garden State.
Oh,
I haven't seen this one either.
Garden State is phenomenal. I adore this movie. It has one of the best soundtracks of like any movie ever. I'm talking The Shins, Death Cab for Cuties, 07, Frau Frau. I mean, he scored this movie based on like his dream, like a soundtrack. It's a beautiful love story. Natalie Portman kills it, obviously. Peter Sarsgaard playing the friend. It's kind of a coming of age, but also it's a coming home to face your demons sort of a thing. Like, I know there's a term for it, but like if you leave like your childhood like town for a long time, and then you come back and you see everybody who you used to grow up with and how they've changed and how you've changed and stuff like that. That's what this movie is. It's so good. I love this movie a lot.
I remember this came out the week before I went to college, and when I showed up on campus, everyone was talking about it because we were all 18-year-olds, and this movie sort of played into that coming of age high school, college mentality. And I had wanted to see it that week, but I was so busy like signing up for classes and learning my way around Boston that I never got around to it. And that was a long time ago, 17 years. Haven't got back to it.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute. I mean, you can look at the picture that we have on our, if you're watching the YouTube video, you just see how young Zach Braff and Natalie Portman are.
Yeah.
Very nice. I think it's time for our number ones. Mine is possibly recency bias. I don't know. I love this movie. I think it's really incredibly done. I have The Lost Daughter at number one.
This was super good.
I really enjoyed it. Maggie Gyllenhaal's first directing outing, and I think she shows a lot of skill with crafting a story. I think Olivia Colman is spectacular. I think Dakota Johnson is spectacular. Man, I really like this movie.
This is a hard one to watch, though.
Yeah,
it was. There's some difficult stuff in there. It captures this emotion of like hating your own children. Mm-hmm. It's a little too on the nose, and you feel kind of guilty about it when you have these emotions against your own offspring. Like, I created you, and at some points you make me really well. But it's important and it's hard. And I didn't love the movie, but I appreciated the performances immensely, and the direction I thought was fantastic. I liked this enough, and I definitely understand why you have it at the top of your list. But
I think for me, the thing you're talking about with the difficulty, there's a fearlessness to what Gyllenhaal is going for here in regards, especially to the female experience.
Yes.
That you just don't see in a lot of movies.
And that's
she's
what I love
allowing Olivia Colman to be messy, to be unlikable, and yet at the same time, we're trying to find
relatable.
There are certainly several moments of this movie that feel like a thriller, almost like a there's suspense horror stuff going on in some of these scenes, and it's just, I don't know, I found it really captivating.
I agree.
So there you go. Your number one, John.
This is where I have An Education. This is a movie that I remember almost nothing about, except for the fact that Peter Sarsgaard is actually starring in this one. Unlike
that's right,
every other movie,
unlike every single other movie,
this is one he actually has the lead in, and it's about his courtship of a much younger woman. I believe played by Carey Mulligan.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both fantastic in it. It's a period piece. He slips into that role so effortlessly, and he has this like charming charisma that makes him a likable character, even though he's kind of doing this kind of shady stuff of like grooming this much younger. I think she plays a teenager in the movie. I don't remember it explicitly.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go back and watch this. It was nominated for an Oscar when it came out back in 2008, 2010. I don't know. I remember just brilliant. I gave it a 9 out of 10. And of all the movies on this list tonight, that was the highest rated. So I put it here, even though I don't really remember much about it, but I loved it. So
there you go. Andrew, finish us off with your number one.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm surprised nobody had Blue Jasmine, but everybody knows what my number one is the Batman.
I've seen this one.
You've seen this one? Okay, yeah.
I haven't seen your other four. Was it you? What were you? Real quick, you had
Jarhead, Pawn Sacrifice.
Yeah.
I already forgot now. That tells you a lot. Garden State and The Man in the Iron Mask.
Yeah, I hadn't seen any of those.
Yeah, if you could, obviously because it's my number two, but out of all those, I would have recommended Garden State. Not just because like it's my number two, but also I think having known you for a little while, I think you would really appreciate it.
Yeah.
But the Batman, we literally just talked about this movie, so I don't feel like I should spend too much time on it. It's out on HBO now, and I've watched it several times since it's been released on HBO.
Talk about Peter in the Batman. What did you feel about his role as the DA?
He has one of the most memorable scenes in the movie because it's one of the most chilling and haunting scenes in the movie, where he has that thing on him, and the Riddler is like over the phone. It's so unsettling. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that Peter Sarsgaard can really sell being terrified. I mean, he does a really good job in that scene. It's one of my favorite scenes from the movie. In general, though, the best scene in that entire movie is whenever the Batmobile turns on for the first time and it just revs up. And then the ensuing chase. Yeah, it's so freaking good. Anybody who says otherwise is a fool.
I just saw it this week and I quite enjoyed it. I think visually, it is probably the most evocative
Yeah.
of all the Batmen.
For sure.
And I loved like the emo gritty take on it.
Yeah.
Zoe's Catwoman is probably my favorite interpretation of the character yet. And
It was
I loved what I loved about it was that it felt like a mid-season episode. And I want more, like, don't waste time with all this origin nonsense. Just drop us in on the next case. Make Batman 2, whatever we're calling it, just the next murder mystery for him. Like, I don't care about any of this other stuff. Just show him solving crimes and beating people up. And just make one of those every year, and I'm happy. Just make it a yearly thing.
This movie is the meat of a sandwich. There's no breading on either side of it. It's just the meat of the sandwich, you know? Aaron just doesn't like anything
Don't
DC.
you paint me as not liking this movie. I like this movie. I just don't like it quite as much as you do. So yeah, Batman is fine.
I gotta give you a hard time.
I had it at number 3 myself on this list.
There we go. Yeah. All right, so there's the best ever challenge, best ever Peter Sarsgaard. Let's finish off with some buried treasure. What is that one thing in
nobody has honorable mentions
I'm sorry, I assumed we took all the Sarsgaard movies. Did anybody have an honorable mention?
I had 2.
Okay, go for it.
Well, first, I was surprised nobody mentioned Blue Jasmine, just because I think Cate Blanchett.
Oh, I thought you were kidding. I hated that movie.
You
That
did?
movie was terrible.
I did not like it.
Oh, well, I thought Cate Blanchett's performance was really good in that movie. A movie that I don't think, if you don't like this movie, I understand it, but I think it's misunderstood, and that's The Cell. Yes, this movie is trippy beyond everything. It's out there, but I think that the visuals are engaging, and it's a unique movie. I mean, there's no other movie out there like it. And go ahead.
Oh, I thought those were 2. Go ahead.
Oh, and Year of the Dog. I don't know if anybody's seen this movie. It's a Molly Shannon movie.
You're just making movies up at this point. I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm looking at the Letterboxd page for Sarsgaard, and I'm like, I don't even see these movies.
Yeah. You don't see The Cell? That was a really big movie with Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Lopez, and Vincent D'Onofrio. But Year of the Dog, I would more than understand if you hadn't heard of that one. Nobody's heard of this movie. It's just one that I saw a long time ago, but it's really emotional. It's because it's about like a woman whose dog dies and her trying to find meaning, and like her kind of like just going a little bit crazy after her dog dies. She goes to the shelter and gets every single dog that's in the shelter, so they don't get put down and stuff. It's a dog movie, and it's really good. And Molly Shannon, I think, is great. I think Molly Shannon is underappreciated in Hollywood, because I've seen her in movies where I'm like, wow, she's a really, really good actress, like Mia Earl in The Dying Girl, where she plays the mother. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, wow, Molly Shannon knows how to act.
I agree. I agree.
Those are my 2.
John, did you have any others?
Yeah, the only movie that we haven't just mentioned was Flight Plan with Jodie Foster.
Oh yeah,
I haven't seen that one. I'm a sucker for good airplane set films, especially like a murder mystery.
Plan's good.
I don't even know who he played in that, but
yeah, it's worth a mention.
I keep getting Flight Plan and Red Eye.
I watched him like the same week. Huge mistake. I'll never be able to untangle that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Alrighty, on to buried treasure. What is that one item in any area of pop culture that you want to make sure people know about? John, you're our guest, so you go last. Andrew, why don't you kick us off?
I'm going to go with a show. It's an older show, but it's a really quick watch. It's a skit show called Human Giant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard of this movie or heard of this show, but if you haven't,
I do know the people on the image on the screen. That looks like Paul Scheer and Rob Hubel.
It is Paul Scheer and Rob Hubel and Aziz Ansari. It was those 3 guys. They had a skit show together. And it was back in 2007. Only like 20-ish episodes. But some of the funniest skits you will ever see in your life are from this show. Some really good ones are Escalating Interview. There's I'm going to explain it to you, and it sounds like the dumbest thing anybody could ever say, but trust me, it's one of the funniest things. where they're all photographers, like a paparazzi, and they want to get into a club to take pictures of people. So they take cardboard cutouts of all the Olsen sisters and put them like on their head. And then they like walk down the line and everybody's like, oh my crap, holy crap, it's Mary Kate and Ashley. And then they let them into the club so that they can meet people. And then, what's his name? Arrested Development. He was Batman. He was also in Will Arnett. Will Arnett falls in love with the Olsen twins and he takes them back to their apartment. But it's just Aziz Ansari with a cardboard cutout of Mary Kate on his face. It sounds like the dumbest thing, but I guarantee you will.
I actually started watching Will Arnett's Murderville on Netflix.
I like Murderville. It's fun,
and it's fun. It's kind of dumb. It's kind of simple, and they're real short, 30 minutes. But
yeah.
Good pick. I've never heard of this, and I'm a huge fan of Paul Scheer.
I can't find it streaming or available to buy anywhere. Is it on YouTube? Maybe
you can buy it on Prime.
Okay, so it is on Prime. Okay, maybe I didn't look in the right place.
Well, when I go to IMDb right now, it's like there's a flashing thing that says "Buy on Prime."
Okay.
Well, let me see if I can find another place where you can watch it. Well, Aaron, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I rewatched a comedy from just a few years ago because I wanted to show it to a friend. It's a 2016 comedy, and after a second viewing, this is, I think, one of the funniest movies ever made in the history of comedies, and it holds up really well, I think, 6 years later. And it is Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping. And so I wanted to give it another plug. If you haven't taken the time to check out Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping, I will say a couple things at the outset. It's raunchy. It is definitely, if you know the Lonely Island and kind of the topics they talk about and the things that they do.
There's a song in here about Osama bin Laden. And
it's one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life.
The song is about raiding Osama bin Laden's camp as a euphemism for sex, and it is as raunchy as it is offensive. And
it's funny because the song is actually called "Finest Girl."
Great film. This is just
so can confirm. Watched it within the last couple of weeks and confirmed for me that I was not mistaken the first time I watched this. This is absolute laughter. I think the docu style of it completely sells the movie for me. I just think it makes it so easy for it to quickly progress through hilarity after hilarity after hilarity. The Justin Timberlake stuff in this is so funny. Piece after piece after piece of this is just so great. Just had kind of one of those confirming moments and wanted to pass that along. It is streaming on Cinemax, so like Max Go, and then of course it can be purchased throughout the universe. John, what is your buried treasure?
Yeah, that is a great film.
The bit with CeeLo and the Wolves, or Seal and the Wolves.
Yeah.
I was going to say quickly, it reminds me of like those old Spinal Tap parodies where it has that. Which wasn't a documentary. I think was Spinal Tap was kind of a mockumentary.
It was the first mockumentary.
Yeah,
it was the first one.
I miss that style of film. We don't really get that often, at least not done well. My buried treasure is certainly one that is well buried under the dirt of Perfection Valley, Nevada. Tremors, the TV show, 13 episodes ordered and aired on Sci-Fi out of order back in the spring of 2003. If you're a fan of the first three Tremors movies, this picks up the adventures of Burt Gummer, the gun nut, and the graboids under the dirt. And it kind of picks up from there. They swap out yet another disposable, handsome white guy as his second in command. And the story kind of quickly retreads the first three movies. The first episode involves a graboid. The second involves those things with legs called shriekers.
Is that Michael Gross?
Michael Gross. Yeah. What did I say?
No. I didn't hear you say it, but I was just like, I haven't seen Michael Gross in forever. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, this to be fair, this show is 19 years old now. But I went back and rewatched the Tremors movies, and after I finished the third one, I'm like, I guess I should kind of go back and check out the TV show, which I remember seeing as it aired on Sci-Fi so many years back. And if you like the movies, you like the show, it kind of turns into a Monster of the Week where each episode there's a little bit of overarching plot, but it brings back some of the characters. Christopher Lloyd guest stars in a trio of episodes with great effectiveness. And each week you're seeing these like ragtag group of desert loners try to improv their way out of another monster situation. Like, all right, there's this deadly cloud of green gas coming from the local mine. How do we stop it before it vaporizes everyone? And they only have like duct tape and a couple trucks, and they have to figure out. And if you love that sort of improvisational problem solving that they pioneered in the movies, this is a fun watch. And there's only 13 episodes. It unfortunately got unceremoniously canceled. And you can't really watch it anywhere except someone re-uploaded them all to Vimeo. And make sure you watch them in the correct order because they were aired out of sequence. But I believe the DVD box set.
Firefly, huh?
So I believe the DVD box set and whomever uploaded them to Vimeo did it the correct way, where the episodes make sense. Otherwise, you can't. It's not like legally available anywhere. It's not streaming. And you can't. You can only buy it. You can only buy it used. You can't even get it retail.
We call that you use your own resources to find.
It is fun though, and watching more of the Burt Gummer character is he's such a cool guy. Anytime you get to spend more time with this like anti-government paranoid gun guy, enjoyable.
I was completely unaware of Michael Gross's post Family Ties career. Like I just
Wait, you didn't know he was in Tremors?
No.
He's like the face of Tremors.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's been in all the movies.
Yeah, you think a lot of people think Kevin Bacon is like the face of Tremors. No, it's Michael Gross.
Okay.
No, Michael Gross has been in every single Tremors thing since the first one. Kevin Bacon was only in the first one, I think.
That's my ignorance showing up, but that's amazing.
And I'm also seeing Dean Norris is in this.
Dean Norris.
A one-time thing, or is he in?
No, he's in every episode.
What?
And
Hank from Breaking Bad is in every single episode.
Yeah.
Nice.
And again, Chris Lloyd, there's a lot of people that like pop up in like little small roles, like, oh shoot, I know this guy too. It's solid. It's a good little monster of the week sci-fi show.
Well, there you go.
I love the Tremors movies. They're
the
fun.
TV show, and you will need to use your own creative resources to find it. Pop Star Never Stop, Never Stopping is on Max Go. In Human Giant, you may also need to use your creative resources to find it.
I love that we all picked like old
we
things.
really went with the buried treasure element.
I appreciate that.
We did it, guys. We did a podcast. Congratulations. Energy was spent, and the return was a podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. Sif Pop is part of the Studio DNA podcast network. You can find out more about other shows on the network at studiodna.media or by searching Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to Andrew for hanging out today.
Thank you, buddy.
Big thanks to producer Phil for producing the audio and video show.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you to John Paula for coming by again. John,
can you smell what John Paula is cooking?
Where can people find you on the internets?
As I say every month, I have still not returned to YouTube because I'm far too lazy and unmotivated. But you can check out all the reviews I'm writing over at Letterboxd /JONPAULA. I just reviewed a couple movies I had never heard of before: Liberty Stands Still with Wesley Snipes and Tough and Deadly with Roddy Piper and Bobby Blanks.
Roddy Piper?
Yeah. Two of these movies that, like, if I had watched them when they came out, I would have loved them. And as it was, I kind of liked them as an adult. Just good, like, pulpy 90s, 2000s action films.
What was it? Tough as what?
Tough and Deadly. This is one of those use your own resources, because I think I ripped it from a YouTube video. There was nothing above 240p quality for this anywhere. Yeah. Good luck finding Tough and Deadly, but it is on YouTube.
John says he's no longer doing YouTube, but he is right here on the Sif Pop YouTube.
That's right. To my proper, and it's like I keep writing, I keep making scripts, and I keep intending to come back. But yeah. Well, just send me your scripts. I'll do the video. You do the writing. I'll do the video, and together we'll create some fun reviews. Let's do it. If you want to be a Sif Pop member, you can do that at Patreon, patreon.com/SiftPop. Support starts at $3 a month. You get access to all the bonus episodes, as well as some other fun perks. Lots of ways you can connect with us. Feel free to leave a comment, rating, or review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. And if you want to email us, please feel free to do so at feedback@sifpop.com. Got a nice email from somebody this week who said they really appreciated the
the buried treasure of the infinite, what was it? The infinite 2 minutes that I did a while back. So they sought it out, watched it in Beyond the Infinite 2 minutes, I think is what it's called. Cool. And really enjoyed it. So thank you for that email. And you can send those to feedback@sifpop.com. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like it too. So let them know about it and that listening is much easier than walking on broken glass. We will be back next week with a very, very strange review.
Stop being cryptic. I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah, Aaron, you're gonna have to send me an email just so I make sure I watch it.
Just to make sure. And we will see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Man, you mentioning Roddy Piper. Now I got to go back and watch They Live.
Yeah.
Endgame pops in to say, jumping in here at the end, since I got my lunch break, but I wanted to see if anyone here mentioned the new season of Russian Doll. Nobody's mentioned it, but I am excited to watch the next season. I really enjoyed season
Still need
1,
to watch
so.
the first season.
I have so much TV. I have so much content I'm behind on right now. It is ridiculous.
I keep hearing this era of media described as the platinum age of television, and I'm not inclined to disagree because so much of it is so good. But also, there's so much of it. What's like the wheat from the chaff? If you actually separate it out, is it proportionally that great compared to like, I don't know. Yeah, you think so?
I think that yes, there's the quantity is definitely so much content out there, but at the same time, there is a caliber of content out there that I can say like some of these shows, if they came out say 2000 even in 2001 somewhere around there. They would be considered some of the best shows ever.
Yeah, they'd own
the stuff that Moon Knight spending $10 million an episode or something like that. Like it's crazy.
You talk about that, like a Severance right now that you know has been airing. If that came out 2001, it'd be the best show, you know. Yeah. But it's kind of buried, unfortunately, because
there's so much,
and there's not only so many shows, but there's also so many different streaming services.
I mean, the market can only handle so much, right? It will equalize. The market can only handle so much, but it'll be interesting to see. It's just easier and easier to create content.
Maybe Elon Musk will just buy all the streaming services and consolidate them into one single one.
And on that note, we're gonna let you guys go. Thanks for hanging out with us. We
everybody.
Appreciate you guys. Bye.